Hello. Hi, how are you? It's good to see you. Welcome. John O'Keefe, present, accounted for, ready to go. And super grateful right now. Super grateful that I have a home, that I am here, that I'm present and accounted for. That my sweetheart is taking care of our house right now while I'm hanging out reading with you. And I think that's pretty dang cool. Jason Reynolds, Look Both Ways. Welcome to our fourth installation of this incredibly good book. Oh my gosh. I was thinking about it on my way home from school today. And I was thinking about how I was asking you to, create a story arc on that first day. You remember that? Remember when I was asking you to create like a story arc? And this one's really interesting because guess what? Each of the stories seem to be a small story within a larger neighborhood. Have you noticed that? Like, I was like, oh my gosh, I asked everybody to like try to use this idea of creating story arcs to like get an idea of how the beginning of the story leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing. But the reality is that each one of these streets is giving us a small little bit at a time. And it's like a little small short story, right? A little small moment, a little essential appetizer, right? Not even an appetizer, it's a whole meal. But the reality is that it's just in a small pocket, like the idea of being able to just tell story after story after story after story. And I needed to wrap my brain around that. That's an idiom, because my brain is always right here, but I need to try to get it wrapped around the whole idea of how Jason Reynolds is trying to play with me and introduce me to a whole bunch of different characters in small little bits. So I want to say, if you've ever been wondering about how to create a small moment, one story with a beginning, middle, and an end, and kind of a rise in action, you could be practicing this on every one of these stories. So where are we? Well, thus far in Look Both Ways, we have two kids, TJ and Jasmine, in each other's lives for different reasons, at different levels in their ability, different types of families that they come from. The next story over with the low cuts, everybody shares in this challenge. And at first, Jason Reynolds was sucking us in to make us not feel, or at least me, you probably had a few of you smarty pantses not thinking the way I was, but those kids who were going to do bad things, really naughty, bad things. And they were doing actions that probably they shouldn't do, but they never hurt anybody. They never caused anybody problems or harm. And let's be really honest, what do most people do with their change? Usually like put it in a cup and then forget about it forever. And then maybe they finally have this really big amount that they end up like taking someplace and all of a sudden realizing that you have like $150. If you haven't started collecting change, you should. Don't collect change from other people's pants or other people's, business. But, if you find a penny and put it someplace. Like, make sure you get that there. But that was a beautiful story about the fact that I was thinking that these kids were going to cause some problems. And then all of a sudden they end up doing this beautifully thoughtful, heartwarming, caretaking reality, right? And then we meet this Pia, right? Pia, chick skateboarder, right? And we meet this other young man. Was it Stevie? I think it was Stevie, right? It was this idea of Stevie getting super picked on by a dude named Marcus and his little gang of guys and doing stuff because, Stevie's trying his best. His mom's working real hard, sending him to a private school, getting an outfit that they can't afford, but trying to give him the best possible education that she can, right? And Marcus sees this as an opportunity. You guys have probably seen this on the recess field. You've probably seen it in your classrooms at times where that kid, the one can't quite do it the way others do, or they come in with, shoes that are older than, me, and all of a sudden that makes them less than, right? There's this hierarchy, this kind of weighing in and out. And so I've been thinking a whole bunch about this in this period of time. I've been thinking about the awesome story arcs that we've been doing. And I hope that maybe you take this opportunity to maybe consider playing around with the idea of, can you recognize the story arc? Can you see that part? So we've got skater Pia, got this crazy girl who's flying through her hallways on her skateboard looking for what? Freedom. And we got this kid Stevie who keeps getting trapped, doesn't want to leave school because he's afraid of what's going to happen to him on the way home. He's getting inappropriate things written on his giant shirts because his mama wanted to be proactive and get him 1 or 2 shirts that they could afford so he could grow into them, so that he could get a great education at a school that expects a uniform, right? It's like the school I went to. But the reality is that there is some reason why they keep doing this thing where they're like, if Pia woke up this morning, she didn't think blah, blah, blah. Or if Steve would have thought that this was going to happen, then blah, blah, blah. But we don't know what that is. We just know that their lives are probably going to cross, right? There's no doubt, because now we know our main character is Pia on the skateboard. Her sister, some kind of awesome person as well. And there's one other skateboarder that she should have stayed back for and had a conversation with. Yet, just like in my class today, we were talking about the idea of serendipity, right? Serendipity, the idea that we don't know why always, that we just happen to be in the right place at the right time, or we just happen to be in the wrong place at the right time. Very often are we at the wrong place at the wrong time. No, that can also happen, right? It is serendipity. It's the idea that the universe seems to be leading us there, whether we knew it or not. And there's a reason. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we begin this awesome story, the last thing that we had was that Marcus had made fun of Stevie, poured some water on the fronts of his pants and made him feel like he peed himself in front of a whole bunch of people and nobody would listen to him, right? And then there was that time that Marcus decided to practice his wrestling moves in front of everybody and used Stevie as his wrestling partner without asking Stevie, right? And then it was this part in regards to Stevie was never really ready to go after school until yesterday when Marcus and the boys finally offered him freedom. And this is the first time that we've heard both Pia wanting her freedom and Stevie being offered freedom. Remember, like I said, there's a little bit of a gap in between the word freedom and the next part. So obviously time has gone by, right? So let's get into this. Pia saw them yesterday. She was used to seeing them, and they were used to seeing her, but they never said nothing. Normally, they stepped to the side and let Pia skate on by. It was usually only 3 boys standing along the fence at the skate park, but this time, 4. Dressed in green. And if Pia hadn't known Marcus, she would have thought private school guys were automatically just good people. She would have thought their ties made them mature. She would have thought that they lived perfect lives in perfect neighborhoods, in perfect houses with clean windows and green grass. Grass even greener than their jackets. Houses that smelled like coffee in the morning and popcorn at night. But Pia knew Marcus. Marcus's mother owned the salon Pia went to whenever her mom made her get her hair done, which was mainly for holidays when they would have to go to her grandmother's for dinner. And her mother had learned a long time ago that the only way to get Pia to go to a salon without kicking was to let her take Skitter, the skateboard, with her. Let her kick that thing around the parking lot until it was her turn in the chair so that Pia wouldn't have to sit for hours flipping through old stupid magazines filled with fancy advertisements of stick figure models with bodies pretzeled up, printed on paper that smelled like perfume Santi wore. When she was smaller, Pia would sniff the pages. And once, when the salon was really backed up, she sniffed and sniffed until the strange mixture of glue, ink, and flowers made her sick, nauseous. She puked all over the salon floor. That was when her mother had finally given in and allowed her to bring the board with her so that she could pass the time in the parking lot. At first, whenever Pia would skate back and forth across the parking lot outside the salon, Marcus, who was always pouting while sweeping up the hair inside the salon, would come out with her. One time, he asked if he could ride Skitter. Pia kicked the board over to him. Marcus put one foot on the deck and steadied himself. And as soon as he lifted the other foot, the board flew out from under him. He caught air before slamming to the ground, only to find that his pants had split up the middle and his superhero briefs were on blast. But Pia didn't laugh. Instead, she tried to help him up, but he couldn't take her hand, cover his butt, and wipe his eyes at the same time. He never came outside with her again except for one day, years later. And on that day, he didn't speak to her or ask her to ride her skateboard. He just sat on the curb and watched her, but pretended he wasn't watching as Pia kicked harder than usual, sailing over the asphalt, grinding her board against the curb, scraping it like she hated it, almost violently, attempting tricks she knew she couldn't do, rocketing to the ground over and over again, then getting back up, getting back on, ignoring Marcus's fake chuckles. I like Pia. I like Pia. See what she's doing? She gave the kid a chance. He felt super silly. Boy, doesn't it kind of feel a little good on the inside that Marcus has this moment? Because at this point in the story, I'm not liking Marcus very much. But the idea of Pia being kind enough to share Skitter sounds like Skitter's a bit of a sacred skateboard, if you know what I'm talking about. So now we've got this idea that Pia knows Marcus. Pia happens to serendipitously get her hair done at the salon that Marcus's mom owns. Serendipity, man. Pia, why would she work so hard for his attention? Why would she do tricks that she couldn't really do, but she tried? And she kept falling. She kept falling and getting up. What was she doing? She's being a teacher, right? She's showing him that it's okay to fall and it's okay to rip your pants. It's okay to show your superhero briefs to everybody most of the time, but not all the time. You know what I'm saying? But the reality is that she is trying to teach him that it's okay. I ain't trying to get in your business, Lydia, I swear. Oh, wait a minute. She could never forget that day. It was the day she was getting her hair done for her sister's funeral. A jacked up French roll with what felt like 200 bobby pins that started itching as soon as she left the chair. Now I know why she was so angry. Now I know why she was trying things that she couldn't do. Who was passed away? Her sister's funeral. Pia felt that same itch when she saw Marcus and the boys yesterday, when she saw the knots at their throats and felt a knot in hers, because she knew Marcus. She knew where his mother's black eyes were coming from, where her swollen jaw and forehead lumps were coming from. Because that same day, Pia sat under the dryer 2 years back after her wash, and before the French roll was put in, she heard her mom ask Marcus's mom when she was going to leave Marcus's father. With the dryer whirring in Pia's ears, it sounded like the two women were whispering in a tornado, but Pia could still hear them through the storm. I ain't trying to get in your business, Lydia. I swear. And if you tell me to mind my own, I will. I mean, with Santi's death and this one here, I got more than enough to mind. But I can't sit here and pretend like I don't see what I see. And I'm definitely not about to act like I don't care about you, Lydia. You and Marcus. So I got to ask you, before this man kills you, when you gonna leave? When Stevie realized yesterday that the girl skating down the street was going to be a target, and that target would be the ticket to him being left alone by Marcus and the boys, accepted as one of them, he got nervous. He got nauseous. What we doing? He choked on his words. Just playing a game, Marcus said, grabbing Stevie's shoulder like a baseball to be fastballed at Pia. But Stevie had a curveball in mind. Told Marcus he wouldn't do anything to her. I don't want you to do nothing to her, Marcus scowled. Just take her skateboard, that's all. The boys lined up, became a wall on the sidewalk, and Pia thought about hopping the curb to go around them, but knew better than to skate into oncoming traffic. She'd cut it close before, too scary. So Pia reluctantly put a foot down, dragged her sneaker along the concrete to slow down, then stomped the back of the skateboard, flipping it up into her hands. "Excuse me," she said politely to Marcus. "Excuse you," he said back, puffing his chest. Pia never looked down, looked each boy in the face. Each of them looked back, except for one, the new one, Stevie. He looked everywhere else, to the left, to the right, up, down, anywhere but right at her. "Let me borrow your board," Marcus said. "Just for a sec. My man been working on a trick and he wanted to show us," Marcus nudged Stevie. "He don't look like he skates," Pia said, sizing Stevie up. "I bet he skate better than you." Marcus stepped toward her, yanking Stevie with him. Stevie looked like he was 2 seconds from vomiting the bones out of his body, leaving him as nothing but a skin suit lying on the sidewalk. Metaphor. Can't really be that. Pia could smell Stevie, a punchy musk, stronger than the perfume in the magazines. He was sweating through his blazer. And before he could answer, Marcus reached for Skitter, grabbed the board, and yanked it. But Pia wouldn't release it. After a back and forth, Pia gripping the board with both hands, Marcus tried a different approach. He let go, and Pia stumbled back but didn't fall. Balance. But Marcus was right there to do gravity's work, shoved her to the ground. The skateboard flew from her hands and skidded into the street, where a car, horn blaring, rolled right over Skitter. "Oh!" The boys howled as the wooden planks split, their stupid excitement splintering Pia's skin. Her voice cracked, broken in half. She got up and she ran, mind racing, thinking about Santi. Stevie chased behind her. Pia ran faster and faster, thinking about Santi, how she was pushed off her board by a boy. Stevie stopped running. Pia ran home thinking about Santi, how the boy was just mad Santi was a better skater than he was. Pushed her into the street, thinking about himself, oncoming traffic. Had Stevie known that's what it would take to be one of Marcus's boys, he wouldn't have even come yesterday. Or maybe he would have, but he would have said something, would have stopped Marcus. Why didn't he say anything? Why didn't he stop? That's what he asked himself as he walked back down the sidewalk. That's what he asked himself when he tipped into the street, his hands up timidly as traffic slowed for him, picked up the cracked calves of the skateboard. He held them like he was holding a broken heart, looked around only to find that Marcus and the boys had left him, like the suckers they were, like the sucker he was. And maybe, if Pia had known Stevie had picked up the pieces of her board, maybe if she'd known that he took them home with him, maybe if she'd known that he finally told his mother about Marcus, told her where all the bleach was going, why he had to wash his clothes every day to try to remove the stains and marks and words into his uniform, showed her the tie that he'd cut off his neck and hid in the bottom of his bag, the one he'd said he'd lost, explained why he hadn't had an appetite, why his grades were slipping. Maybe if Pia had known that he told his mother what he had just done, what he didn't do, what he'd just seen. Maybe if Pia had known that his mother struggled to hold back a scream, helped him tape the deck back together, punish him, sent him to bed, woke him up early this morning for extra chores. Maybe if Pia had known that his mother, after meeting with the principal, pulled Stevie out of school early, drove him to what they guessed was Pia's school, the only public middle school in the area, sat stuck in traffic, lecturing him, paying no attention to the news on the radio. A school bus had fallen from the sky. That's what the news said. Made him stand outside the entrance and wait for Pia awkwardly. Maybe if Pia had known that Stevie was coming to apologize for his silence, maybe, just maybe, Pia wouldn't have left through the back door. Today, with Fawn, to walk to the cemetery, to visit Santi's grave and ask her questions, some hard questions about boys. I don't know what to think right now. Santi, her sister, died. Skateboarding. Boys pushed her out into the street. Pia just experienced almost the same thing. See how their lives were coming together? Did you hear what was on the news, on the radio? Do you remember us talking about that on the first day when the bus was flying from the sky? Remember how cool that would be? Because no one heard it, nobody saw it. Remember that? It was at the very beginning of the book. I mean, first lines, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, it started with, this story was going to begin like all the best stories, with the school bus falling from the sky. But no one saw it happen. And then all of a sudden we find it in the middle of this book, in the middle of Pia and Stevie's story, and the concept that Pia hung out with Fern, going to a cemetery to ask an older sister who doesn't exist anymore, why do boys do what they do? I'm telling you, boys, why do you do what you do? But I gotta at the same time ask the same question, girls, why do you do what you do? Because we all don't know. Wow. I gotta go back before we keep going, and I'm gonna return to the picture that we started with. Do you see it now? Do you see it? I now know. It's got to be Stevie, and it's got to be Pia. Got to be. It's amazing, right? Amazing. You ready for another story? Or at least part of one? I don't think I'm going to be able to get to the whole thing because I only got 9 minutes, but I really like this idea that we start a story on one day and then we come back to the next one and find out what happens. Welcome to Portal Avenue. You know what I find out about portals? Portals are openings of doors. That's what I'm thinking. I'm definitely recognizing this, but I'm definitely seeing a skateboard. Definitely seeing something falling in a book, and somebody over here. I'm starting to get this, Jason Reynolds. I'm starting to get it. Look at the title of this chapter. How to look both ways. Both ways. Are we going to turn around and see it from other people's perspectives? Oh, please tell me that that's going to happen. Fatima Moss talks to only one person on her way home from school. And before she talks to that person, she keeps a checklist of all the things on her journey that have changed and all the things that have stayed the same. That one person and their sameness or differentness included. This is the checklist. 1, bell rings for 5 seconds. 2, 28 students, 29 including me, dash from Miss Broom's English class. Difference. Today, Trista Smith and Britton Burns run faster than everyone. Almost knocked Sam Mosby over. Trista and Britton. Trista and Britton. Trista. I don't know any of these people. 3, I take off. 4, the whole school crowds into the hallway. 5, it's so noisy, I can't hear myself think. 6, I stop at my locker to get this notebook, which I keep there where it's safe, so I can hear myself think. 7, the combination to my lock is the same. 8, I get it all wrong. 9, I panic and think someone has switched my lock, which means I may never get to my notebook. 10, I try the combination again, and it works. 11, the combination to my lock is the same. 12, I grab this notebook, get the books I'll need for homework, which is usually none because I usually get all my homework done before school is over. Difference, but today I have homework. English. Miss Broom wants us to imagine ourselves as objects, any object we want, and write about it. Doesn't require a book, though. We heard about this in the low cuts. 13, I head for my locker to the school doors. Between 77 and 84 steps, depending on if Miss Walkley is yelling at anyone in the middle of the hallway. Today, she was yelling at Simon Cross for running down the hall with Kenzie Thompson on his back. Again, technically not a difference. Today, it took 81 steps. 14, exit the building. Double doors are always open. 15, 6 school buses out front, 2 lines of cars for pickup. Mr. Johnson is directing traffic. 16, between 86 and 94 steps to the corner of the crossing guard, Miss Post stands. 17, quote, hi, Fatima, unquote, she says. Difference. Today she said, hey, Fatima. 18. Miss Post's son, Canton, sits at the stop sign on the corner holding a broom with no broomstick. It's weird, but not weird, because he's always there. 19. I keep walking straight. Don't have to cross the street. 20. I count the signs. Already one stop sign, hydrants, and major cracks in the sidewalk. Not all the cracks. That would be too hard. Too many. But the big ones. 21. Don't walk too fast. Have to take note of all the houses too, how they look. 22. They all look the same. They all look like they're made of graham crackers. They all look like the houses I drew when I was 6. Box with a triangle on top, except bigger. They all have big windows. I think that they all have big carpets inside and a front room no one sits in. 23. I know that there are 19 of these houses from the crossing guard's corner to my house. 24. My house is number 20. 25. My house looks exactly the same as the others. It also has beige carpet inside and a front room no one sits in. 26. Because of that, I don't really have to pay too much attention to those houses. I can just count the signs. 27. School crossing is the first sign. A picture of an adult and a child. I think weird because kids cross by themselves. 28. Look both ways. 29. One-way sign. Right at the beginning, always there. I still look both ways. 30. The speed limit is 15. There's a sign that says so. 31. There are 4 stop signs, one at the end of each block. 32. There are 5 houses on each block. I don't know any of the people who live in any of them. That's the same. 33. I wonder if any of them see me walk past every day with this notebook. If they count me and say, same. 34. I wonder if all the houses are empty, like mine. People have to work to pay bills. Graham cracker houses cost a lot of money, I think. So does green grass and bushes, and people who cut that grass and trim those bushes. Difference. There's a chunk of roses snatched out of the house. Number 8. Number 8's rose bush doesn't look like a mistake either. 35. I've been counting cracks. I've learned to look up and down at the same time. Look both ways. 36. By the time I reach house number 8, I have stepped over only 6 cracks in the sidewalk, 6 big cracks, big enough that if you don't know why they're there, you will trip. 37. I meet Bennie at the same place I meet her every day, the same place I met her months ago, doing what she does every day and was doing months ago, singing. Bennie Austin sings old songs like they're new songs. She also does old dances like they're new dances, wears old clothes like they're new clothes. Fatima met her on the first day as a walker. Fatima's mother and father had given her strict instructions on what to do and in which way to go. Easy instructions to follow because Fatima had only to go straight. One way down Portal Avenue, no stopping, no talking, eyes up, looking both ways, eyes up, which is why Fatima tripped on one of the 6 big cracks where the sidewalk splits. A lightning bolt of separation, one part lifted just enough to be annoying and dangerous. Fatima stubbed her toe, then went flying, but only after a few stumbles and bumbles and stumble bumbles, like her mind was trying to convince her body to stay grounded, but her body wouldn't be held down, wanted to leap, wanted to catch air. Her body won. She took flight, but only for a second. Then she took fall. Fatima crashed onto the sidewalk, the skin on her knees scraping off in stinging red strips. It was the kind of fall that requires a person to lie still for a moment, let the experience wash over them like a wave of boiling water. So Fatima lay there for maybe 6 seconds, which were 5 seconds too many because a bus had pulled up and had stopped at the stop sign. And as Fatima heard the clacking sound of the windows on the bus lowering, clack, 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 Fatima knew that 15 miles an hour would be much slower than she thought it would be. That it was more like 5 miles an hour, no miles an hour. Wow, a boy from the bus yelled. It was followed by a series of other cornball zingers involving eat it, bite it, dive after 5, even though it was just past 3 in the afternoon. Pay attention or you'll lose your life, one kid yelled. All Fatima remembered about that kid was his lisp, that he put on loose made it sound like loof. And the split that flew from his mouth, spit that flew from his mouth, big enough for Fatima to see, but it was the kind of kid behind him who caught her attention even more. A boy who sat in his seat with the window up, thick ropes of hair sprouting from his head like antennae. He held a notebook up to his face, peeked over it at her, and she could tell that behind that notebook, he wasn't laughing. Not at all. Not one bit. By the time the bus had passed her, Fatima had started to get up. Her knees were buzzing, bloody, and each move, each step made her draw in short gusts of air. Oh man, do I know that feeling. Man, have I done that. Oh. And then she heard a long, drawling voice. The kind of voice that was deep for no reason. The voice was singing in a tone that most would consider sanging. But it really wasn't exactly good or bad, but enthusiastic and better than the bus, that's for sure. Get ready, the voice attached to a woman shouted. She was bopping up the street, pumping her arms as if banging on the biggest invisible drum set ever imagined, offbeat. Not a big woman, not too small either, just somewhere in the middle, which was the only way she could have barely fit in the blazer that she had on. Green. A school patch sewn on the breast pocket. It was filthy. White shirt, wet with sweat. Soft pink pants with creases so sharp down the front that it looked like she could cut the air with each step. I'm mad! That's a fact! Get ready for the big payback! And then, in a higher tone, she repeated, the big payback! Then, spin move. Fatima, unsure of who this lady was or what she was about, jumped up, grabbed her backpack, and limped on. And the lady limped on too, right next to Fatima, and screamed again, get ready! She noticed Fatima flinch and stopped. Stopped singing, stopped dancing, stopped walking. Just stopped, dead in her tracks in the middle of the sidewalk, her face becoming loose and sloshy. Get ready to be done with the story today. I love this book, Jason Reynolds, yay! So here's the thing. I am loving this. Crazy characters. Awesome, considerate characters. I've seen these people before. I've seen bullies. I've seen Stevie, who allows it to go on too long. I've seen Pia, the tough little skateboard kid. So often we don't know what's going on back here, right? And then there's Fatima. Fatima has a notebook, and she can pay attention to about 1 million different things at one time. And every single time she does it, she sees whether it's similar or different. She's got one of those focus minds. She's got one of those minds that has a very specific way of doing things. But this lady, this lady who has come on, she's wearing a green blazer. Have we heard one of those before? It sounds kind of like the school blazer, right? But it sounds like this woman is a lady. And the blazer doesn't really fit her. She's singing weird songs. She's looking at Fatima, walking with Fatima. And they've been doing it every day ever since Fatima got to start walking to school. I wonder how old she is. Well, she can write. She's got a locker. She knows her combination. So she's got to be in middle school, right? Huh. I know kids like that. Be interested to find out what happens. And so I guess you're going to have to come back tomorrow. Oh my gosh, I had so much fun today. I had a lot of fun today. House smells clean. Book has been awesome. I'm meeting new characters. I'm seeing you today. I can't thank you enough for being here. But listen, here's the dealio, yo. I got to roll. I got to get going. The rain hasn't come yet, and it's time to go take a walk outside before it gets nasty out. Got to always pay attention to the order of events, right? Pay attention to that as you continue to live on, right? Got to go out and take a walk because I need to practice getting in shape again. And Mag, I don't know if you're smiling about that too, but get outside. If it hasn't started raining yet, go outside and enjoy some weather. Maybe look out for a kid like Fatima or Stevie or Pia. Or, I don't know. Go say hi to somebody in your own family. Go love them. Go care for them. Go have fun. Go read your own book. Maybe even write me which book you're reading right now because I want to know more books. Anyway, thanks for being here today. Thanks for taking some time to participate and read on, stay healthy, love each other, and get out of here because I love you and it's time to go. Go. Time to go. Go.